Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. This is Kate. Oh, there he goes. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today we are returning to some of the to an ALA book review. We've got two left. I tried to shoot this one a couple weeks ago and my audio died, so here we are again shooting The Perks of Being a Wallflower for the second time. This is the second to last ALA book review that we currently have to do until 2021 and 2022 are over. The final book review for this list will be A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, because yeah, that was on the 2022 list. And then I can show you the real horror show of 2023 called Slay by Brittany Morris. Yeah, it was so bad. It was so bad that it's a third of the size of A Court of Mist and Fury, but the review is longer because I have to show you the insanity that is in that text. Anybody that was in the Discord for that can vouch for the insanity from the read-along. But back to the actual scheduled program. Before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through Lamwai, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt, you write a short story or a fragment with that prompt, and on the first Monday video of the month, we read some of those submissions together because you guys are incredibly talented and interesting, and I'm not trying to score a date with you. And the other way to be featured here is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out, if you submit your first chapter and the cover, one of them will be read here on the channel at random to hopefully help more readers find your work and to go and get the rest of the story after they've already been enticed by your brilliant first chapter. Make sure that it's brilliant. Then the third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they are available anywhere that you get books, including the library, if you just request them from your librarian. With that said, let's jump into Stephen Chbosky's The Perks of Being a Wallflower. This book was released in, 1999? And on the ALA's Banned and Challenged Books list, it was tied at number 5 with Looking for Alaska, which has also been reviewed on this channel, and it was challenged for depictions of sexual abuse, LGBT content, drug use, profanity, and claimed sexual explicitness. The first thing that you should know before we get into the synopsis of the story is that the book is written as a series of letters or diary entries by Charlie, the main character. That's really all the background you need to get started in this book. Also, it's broken down into 4 parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. I personally did not see a reason why it was broken down into 4 parts because it didn't really show any major differences to me as to this is the next stage of his life. But I also didn't study the book, so if you've read the book and have any idea as to why it was broken down into 4 parts, feel free to let me know. Part 1, the first entry is Charlie saying that he needs to talk to someone, that he isn't afraid of going around or sleeping around with other people. That's why he feels comfortable speaking here in this journal or letter. He then mentions how his friend named Michael committed suicide. Anyways, he cries that Michael didn't ever talk to him because he's obviously a good ear to talk to, so why didn't Michael ever talk to him? And he considers why Michael might have committed suicide. And he ends by saying that he should probably sleep now, but the reasons for his writing is because school starts tomorrow and he's kind of anxious. The first letter after school starts, Charlie doesn't like school, he gets into a fight, beats somebody up, and his brother is going to college on a full scholarship. Parents are happy about that, but now they can save money to pay for their daughter's college. The family goes to watch football together because his older brother is playing and they're all really happy. Charlie's older sister is also part of the Earth Day Club where she meets this boy who makes her a mixed tape, and she didn't really want the mixed tape, so she gives it to Charlie and he likes the tape, but it felt weird because it was actually made for his sister and not for him. Then his sister is watching a movie with this boy when she insults him by calling him softer than even Charlie is, and Charlie's a little soft boy. The boy punches Charlie's sister in the face, and Charlie is asked to leave the room, and the next time he sees his sister, she says that she's going out with that boy and please don't tell mom what happened. It should also be noted, so I watched the movie about halfway through this book, and then I finished the rest of the book. One thing is, the movie actually gave the brother and sister names. The book does not give brother and sister names, so for the sake of this book, it will leave them as brother and sister. I actually think that the movie should have left them as brother and sister because in the book, it gives this feeling of disconnect from those people around him to Charlie, but when you give them names immediately, so immediately that it's said in the text, like when in the dialogue in the first 2 or 3 minutes, then it kind of blurs that disconnect that the book actually had, or the disassociation the book actually had by only referring to sister and brother as sister and brother. Anyway, continuing on. Also, it didn't show sister as being also part of the abusive situation, like insulting her boyfriend. That then is what earned her the punch in the face. There are some actually fairly large differences between the book and the movie, and I might mention some of those as we go. Also, Charlie's new favorite book is To Kill a Mockingbird, and his teacher gives him books to read because he has a knack for reading. He's really good at it. He seems interested in writing. And the mom is like, if the teacher thinks that you're so good at reading and writing, why doesn't he put you in advanced classes instead of seeing you interpersonally on a one-to-one basis? Honestly, I questioned that choice as I was reading because I was like, is this going to be kind of dubious? Because the way that this is presented and never is resolved, like the teacher answering why he did a one-to-one relationship instead of putting Charlie in advanced classes to foster his creativity, is never really answered. And so every time he's giving Charlie some individual attention, it feels questionable. It never turns into anything, but it was just a choice. Charlie catches his sister having sex with her boyfriend and leaves when he's yelled at. Then they're all watching football and the kid is like, that team hasn't been the same since your son left it. And dad is like, you know what, daughter, I like this kid. And the sister is watching Charlie to make sure that he doesn't say anything about what happened. Quote, so I left. The next day, we all watched my brother play football, and my sister invited this boy over, and I'm not sure when he left the previous night. They held hands and acted like everything was happy, and this boy said something about how the football team hasn't been the same since my brother graduated, and my dad thanked him. And when the boy left, my dad said that the boy was becoming a fine young man who could carry himself, and my mom was quiet. And my sister looked at me to make sure that I wouldn't say anything, and that was that. Yes, he is, and that's all my sister could say. And I could see that this boy at home doing his homework and thinking about my sister naked, and I could see them holding hands at the football games that they do not watch, and I could see this boy throwing up in the bushes at a party house, and I could see my sister putting up with it, and I felt very bad for both of them. There's then a kid in Charlie's shop cat. There's then a kid introduced in Charlie's shop class who goes by the name of Nothing because he told kids in freshman year, either call me Patrick or call me Nothing, and they chose to go with Nothing so that they could taunt him, and that's what he is now. Also, Charlie's sister asked for the mixtape back because it was made by her boyfriend and she wants it now. Charlie gets a C on his To Kill a Mockingbird essay. The teacher wants him to use words like corpulent and jaundice, but that doesn't seem appropriate because no one uses those words, and so he's like, nobody would know what those words mean anyway. Then he's going on about movie stars doing interviews, and this reminds him of some woman talking about celebrities, and then a time when he and his family were watching MASH, and his dad got up to make a sandwich. But when Charlie found his dad in the kitchen, his dad was like sobbing, and then his dad, fixed himself up and was like, don't tell your mother or anybody that you saw this, and Charlie is like, yeah, okay, and that was that. He says that some kids hate their parents, but he feels bad for his. At a football game, he introduces himself to Patrick/Nothing and a girl named Sam. He finds out that they're brother and sister, which gives him relief because he wants to ask Sam out. He also has a sex dream about Sam, and he feels so bad about it later that he tells her that he had a sex dream about her. The next entry, we learned that upperclassman Patrick actually taught Charlie how to masturbate. What masturbation is, describes it, and says that work should allow time for masturbation breaks instead of coffee breaks. Then he tells Sam about the sex dream that he had and feels bad about doing that, but she just laughs. Sam tells Patrick about Charlie's crush on her, and he tells Charlie that you can't date my sister, but I will tell you how to game girls and introduce you to a couple of girls so that you can go for somebody that's not my sister. Patrick also tells Charlie that girls like boys who give them a purpose and uses mothers as an example. Says that girls don't like bad boys, they just like having purposes, and bad boys give girls something to fix. Quote, the thing is, some girls think that they can actually change guys, and what's funny is that if they actually did change them, they'd get bored. They'd have no challenge left. You just have to give girls some time to think of the new ways of doing things, that's all. Some of them will figure it out here, some later, some never. I wouldn't worry about it too much. But I guess I did worry about it. I've been worrying about it ever since he told me. I look at people holding hands in the hallways and I try to think about how it all works. At the school dance, I sit in the background and I tap my toe and I wonder how many couples will dance to their song. In the hallways, I see the girls wearing the guys' jackets and I think about the idea of property. And I wonder if anyone is really happy. I hope they are. I really hope they are. There is a level of sadness throughout this whole thing and this idea that nobody can be happy and nobody really is happy and they just are in the situation that they are in. Obviously it seems Mr. Wallflower here is judging every relationship and that nobody can actually be happy. His sister is in a bad relationship. His parents are in a bad relationship. Everybody is miserable. It feels like what a miserable person hopes with other people, because if you're miserable and you're kind of a mean, miserable person, then you hope that other people are also miserable because you don't like seeing people that are happy. Charlie starts talking to a teacher because he's staring at people in school, and the teacher is like, "Some people use thought to check out of life. You get the love you accept from others." He tells Bill, the teacher, about Sam, but also that he thinks that he is not good enough for Sam since she's older and can drive and he can't. The questions have him revealing trouble at home, and when he gets home, his parents are cornering his sister, telling her that she can't date the boy that she's with anymore because they've found out that he smacked her. Then Charlie explains how his dad has never hit any of them except for this one time that he slapped him because he made his aunt cry, but everyone was emotional after that, and his dad apologized and felt really bad and never did it again. Charlie explains again how Patrick was the one who taught him how to masturbate because he's not sure if in previous entries he made that clear. Then it goes into his dad talking to his sister's boyfriend's parents, and he leaves the family after informing them that their son smacked his daughter around. Charlie asks if there were any problems at the home that the boyfriend is from. Dad said, "I have no idea if there were home problems, but it's not my problem, and it doesn't matter if there are problems at home. That does not excuse beating somebody." Nothing is an excuse. Nothing is an excuse to do that, and also not everyone has a sob story anyway, so it doesn't even matter. He assures Charlie that he did the right thing by letting them know that it was happening. He talks about teacher Bill giving him Peter Pan to read, and he enjoyed it. He goes to homecoming football game and meets up with Sam and Patrick. They invite him to a party, and Charlie wants to go because Charlie's only been to one party before, and it was one that his brother threw that got kind of out of hand. And at this party, he basically experienced watching somebody get raped in the room that he was in. Quote, "This one couple, whom I was told later were very popular, and stumbled into my room and asked if I minded them using it. I told them that my brother and sister said that I had to stay here, and they asked if they could use my room anyway with me still in it. I said I didn't see why not, so they closed the door and started kissing very hard. After a few minutes, the boy's hand went up the girl's shirt, and she started protesting. 'Come on, Dave.' 'What?' 'Kids in here. It's okay.' And the boy kept working on the girl's shirt, and as much as she said no, he kept working it. After a few minutes, she stopped protesting, and he pulled her shirt off, and she said, and she had a white bra on with lace. I honestly didn't know what to do at this point. Pretty soon, he took off her bra and started kissing her breasts, and then he put his hand down her pants, and she started moaning. I think that they were both very drunk. He reached to take her pants off, and she started crying really hard as he reached for his own. He pulled his pants and underwear down to his knees. 'Please, Dave.' 'No.' But the boy just talked soft to her about how good she looked and things like that, and she grabbed his penis with her hands and started moving it. I wish that I could describe this a little more nicely without using words like penis, but that was the way that it was. After a few minutes, the boy pushed the girl's head down, and she started to kiss his penis. She was still crying. Finally, she stopped crying because she put the penis in her mouth, and I don't think that you can cry in that position. I had to stop watching at that point because I started to feel sick, but it kept going on, and they kept doing other things, and she kept saying no. Even when I covered my ears, I could still hear her say that." So the two of them just kept going at it until the sister came into their room and broke it up. The boy in the situation looked smug as he was leaving with the girl that he just raped, and the sister calls Charlie a pervert. Turns out that the party was infamous for how out of control that got, and the cops had to show up. Also, the rapist kid, Dave, is a quarterback, and he is currently dating the girl that he did that to. And Charlie is telling Sam all of the story, and he's like, "He raped her, didn't he? Maybe we should tell someone." But Sam is like, "It's hard to prove." And Charlie says that it is hard to prove when the couple is actually dating, so there's really nothing that anyone can do but letting out the air on Dave's tires on his car, because knowing Dave's a rapist is making Charlie angry, especially because he got away with it. Sam and Patrick and Charlie are all then on their way to a party in Sam's pickup truck when a song comes on the radio, and Charlie has this very "I'm 14 and deep" moment. Quote, The feeling I had happened when Sam told Patrick to find a station on the radio, and he kept getting commercials and really bad song about love that had the word baby in it, and then more commercials, and finally he found this really amazing song about this boy, and we all got quiet. Sam tapped her hand on the steering wheel, and Patrick held his hand outside the car and made airwaves, and I just sat between the two of them. After the song finished, I said something. I feel infinite. And Sam and Patrick looked at me like I'd said the greatest thing that they'd ever heard because the song was that great and because we really paid attention to it. 5 minutes of a lifetime were truly spent, and we felt young in a good way. I have since bought the record, and I would tell you what it was, but truthfully, it's not the same unless you're driving to your first real party and you're sitting in the middle seat of a pickup with two nice people when it starts to rain. The party, there are all of these upperclassmen, and then they're really being super nice to Charlie, and they offer him a brownie that is laced with pot, if you have to guess. But he didn't know that it was laced with pot, and so meanwhile, Patrick and Sam have pretty much abandoned him at this party of upperclassmen to go and do their own thing. They come back when he is already high, and Sam takes him to the kitchen to make him a milkshake to, help him or something. Charlie hears something down in the coat room, so he goes to check it out, and then he finds Patrick and Brad making out. Patrick talks to Charlie in the hall, making sure that he won't tell anybody what he saw, cause Brad is scared of people finding out that he has an interest in dudes. Charlie confirms to keep it a secret. Then they all go back downstairs and he listens to music with Sam. Patrick is smiling and compliments Charlie on being something, and that is a wallflower. He says that, as a wallflower, you see things, but keep quiet about them. And then they're at homecoming, and Charlie's sister is with a boy that she's not supposed to be with because she's still seeing him, despite the fact that she's not supposed to be seeing him. They leave and are driving, and Sam gets into the back seat, and Patrick speeds up, and then Sam stands up and screams into the sky as music plays in a very much I Am a Teen Spirit move. It really feels like it was written for the visuals and for the, look at me, I'm a teenager. There are certain things that you're like, yeah, I can see that you did this for the moment. Quote, after the dance, we left in Sam's pickup. Patrick was driving this time. As we were approaching the Fort Pitt tunnel, Sam asked Patrick to pull to the side of the road. I didn't know what was going on. Sam then climbed into the back of the pickup truck, wearing nothing but her dance dress. She told Patrick to drive, and he got this smile on his face. I guess they had done this before. Anyway, Patrick started driving really fast, and just before we got to the tunnel, Sam stood up, and the wind turned her dress into an ocean wave. When we hit the tunnel, all the sound got scooped up into a vacuum, and it was replaced by the song on the tape player, a beautiful song called Landslide. When we got out of the tunnel, Sam screamed this really fun scream, and there it was. Downtown lights on buildings and everything that makes you wonder. Sam sat down and started laughing. Patrick started laughing. I started laughing, and in that moment, I swear, we were infinite. Part 2 starts with Charlie saying that he learned what Zen meant by talking to some girl named Mary Elizabeth who told him that it makes you connected to everything in the world. Then it randomly transitions into playing a game as a child. This book is actually really jumpy in the presentation, and it kind of is just a stream of consciousness presentation. Quote, you are part of the trees and the grass and the dogs, things like that. She even explained how her tattoo symbolized this, and I can't remember how. So I guess Zen is a day like this, when you are part of the air and remember things. One thing that I remember is that the kids used to play a game. What you would do is take a football or something, and one person would have it, and all the other kids would try to tackle that kid, and then whoever got to the ball next would run around with it, and the kid would try to tackle him, and the kids would try to tackle him. This would go on for hours, and I never really understood the point of the game, but my brother loved it. He didn't like to run with the ball so much as he liked to tackle people. The kids called the game Smear the Queer. I didn't really think about what that means until now. Then it goes into Brad and Patrick's relationship and about how they made out at a party once after breaking the ice, and Brad didn't really want anyone to know that it happened when it happened, so he started getting drunk and high all the time so that he could have an excuse to make out with Patrick without actually doing it of his own accord, but also doing it of his own accord. Like, he could be like, I was high at the time, so it wasn't real, but also deliberate. Then he came to one of Patrick's parties where Patrick and Brad actually had sex, and Brad sobbed after. So Patrick was like, okay, look, just pretend that you're asleep and I'll go out to the party and then you just stay here and we'll figure it out from there. Also, get dressed again. And they determined to keep their relationship a secret. Totally. Quote, When summer came, Brad didn't have to worry about school or anything, so drinking and smoking got a lot worse. There was a big party at Patrick and Sam's house with the less than popular crowd. Brad showed up, which caused quite a stir because he was popular, but Patrick kept the secret as to why Brad came to the party. When most people left, Brad and Patrick went into Patrick's room and they had sex for the first time that night, and I don't want to go into detail about it because it's pretty private stuff, but I will say that Brad assumed the role of a girl in terms of who put things where. I think that's pretty important to tell you. When they were finished, Brad started to cry really hard. He had been drinking a lot and getting really stoned. No matter what Patrick did, Brad kept crying. Brad wouldn't even let Patrick hold him, which seems rather sad to me because if I had sex with someone, I would want to hold them. Finally, Patrick just pulled up Brad's pants and said to him, "Just pretend that you're passed out." Then Patrick got dressed and walked around the house to go into the party from a different direction than his bedroom. He was also crying pretty bad, and he decided that if anybody asked, he would say that his eyes were red from smoking pot. Finally, he shook himself out of it and walked into the main party room. He acted really drunk, and then he went up to Sam and said, "Hey, have you seen Brad?" Sam saw the look in Patrick's eyes. Then she spoke up to the party. "Hey, has anyone seen Brad?" Nobody at the party had, so a few people went searching for him. They finally found him in Patrick's room, asleep. Finally, Patrick called Brad's parents because he was really worried about him. He didn't tell them why, but he said that Brad was really sick at the party and he needed to be taken home. Brad's parents did come, and Brad's father, along with some of the other boys, including Patrick, carried Brad to the car. And that's the end of that. Bill, the teacher, is now giving Charlie A's in his classes, and Charlie doesn't know why since he's not doing anything different with his paper. Quote, "He told me that my sense of language is improving along with my sentence structure." No, we don't really see this advanced writing style in the letters, which is kind of a problem with the narrative specifically since the book claims that he's a great writer, but we don't see like this intricate writing in this book. Some people even said that it felt like Charlie was stunted in some ways. So if he's stunted, is the teacher just covering for that with the way that he is being? Anyway, he doesn't know what to do with his writing skill, but starts working for the fanzine called Punk Rocky that's at the school. He also goes to the local Rocky Horror Picture Show screening where people act out the different roles in front of the movie as it plays on a projector behind them. Sam plays Janet and walks around in underwear, and Charlie is admiring her but trying not to think about her in that sexual way. He wrote her a poem which he doesn't share with her or the reader because it'd be disrespectful. Also, Sam's now going out with some guy named Craig. So the down low on Craig is that he is a model and a photographer who takes pictures of Sam. Charlie hates how Craig thinks because he thinks that Craig only sees Sam as beautiful because he takes pictures of her, and not that the pictures are beautiful because they are of Sam. We're getting some real nice guy energy here when Charlie is like, I want Sam to stop liking him because he really could appreciate her the correct way, and Craig can absolutely not appreciate Sam the correct way. Also, he asks his sister about Sam, and the sister says that Sam was a blow queen back in the day. Don't ask about that. Also, she's still dating that one guy she's not supposed to see, but that guy hasn't hit her since that one time, and things are going to be fine going forward. She's sure of it. He talks about an experiment done in class about a rat going for food on the other side of a cage, and this somehow is relating to finding reasons to live in life. He says, I don't know what the significance of this is, but oh well. It just feels like padding, or maybe the author ran out of ideas and then just kind of that was still in there, and it doesn't amount to anything. The holidays are now coming up, so Charlie is talking about his brother coming home. He talks about his brother maybe falling for a chill, normal girl at college who is a little unconventional because those are the kinds of girls that are the best kinds of girls. Quote, personally, I think my brother is having a college experience like they do in the movies. I don't mean the big fraternity party kind of movies, more like the movies where the guy meets a smart girl who wears a lot of sweaters and drinks cocoa. They talk about books and issues and kiss in the rain, and I think something like that would be good for him, especially if the girl was unconventionally beautiful. They are the best kinds of girls, I think. I personally find supermodels strange. I don't know why this is. My brother, on the other hand, had posters of supermodels and cars and beer and things like that on the walls in his room. I suppose if you add a dirty floor, it's probably what his dorm room looks like. My brother always hated making his bed, but he kept his clothes closet very organized. Go figure. He talks about wanting to be on the ball team to get glory days in because his brother is having such a good time playing ball. But also when he played ball as a kid, they said that he was too aggressive, so he had to actually stop so he wouldn't hurt other people. He looks at old pictures of his parents, wondering what happened to them to make them take them from being so attractive to the way that they look now. He thinks about what his dad used to be like, telling stories about his glory days and how he thinks about his own glory days now being made, and thinks about how now the days that are going by currently in school are somebody else's glory days that they'll be telling to their kids. He wants to be able to tell his own kids about his glory days some days. Turns out that Charlie's brother can't come home for Thanksgiving, and Mom has now become upset by this. Then he also talks about walking home with Michael, the boy who committed suicide this one time, and how these neighbors, one of them was a wife who was currently staying with her mother because the two of them had gotten into a fight. Now the husband was sitting on the patio listening to baseball on the radio. Charlie doesn't know if they're nice because he's never actually talked to them. He also says that his mom said like 70% of marriages end in divorce when a child is lost. He talks about going to Thanksgiving at his grandpa's house and how dysfunctional his family is. They used to fight, but now they've bonded over the brother playing football. Also, there's a little reminiscing of how grandpa used to beat grandma when his mom was younger and how his dad did not like his father-in-law for that reason. They'll say what they're thankful for around the table and then move on to a relatively peaceful Thanksgiving where nothing eventful happens. Charlie's then explaining that Secret Santa because he learned about this from Sam and he's looking forward to it. He's prepared a mixtape for Patrick as Patrick's Secret Santa. He felt amazing holding that tape in his hand. It is so special to him, and he's so excited to share it and listen to it as he's going to get his driver's license soon. He's just insanely excited about how things are going. Patrick ends up loving the mixed tape that Charlie made, and he's pretty sure that Patrick knows the tape is from him because Charlie knows Patrick so well. Also, Charlie is very disappointed because as his Secret Santa, he got a pair of socks and he thinks that's lame, and he's like, I think I know who gave me these stupid lame socks. He also got a handful of other gifts for Patrick's Secret Santa, which include magnetic poetry, paints, and harmonica, and a book about Harvey Milk, since Patrick is gay, and he's like, clearly he would appreciate a book about Harvey Milk because of that. He does his finals and everything is going just fine. Now he's at Sam's and Patrick's rich house and he's impressed by just how much money they have. They're having a party and he reveals that he was Patrick's Secret Santa all along, and everyone knew that already. He reads a poem to them all and everyone is super amazed that Charlie wrote that poem. The poem is read at the end of this section and is mentioned as being some kid's suicide note, because that's uplifting. And Charlie finds out that his Secret Santa was actually Patrick, and Patrick actually gave him a suit, a full suit in pieces, and he feels really good in it. He says that he was given the suit because every great writer has a suit in his closet, and so clearly since Charlie is going to be a writer, he needs a suit of his own. He gives everyone else Christmas gifts at the party, and nobody else actually gives Charlie a gift because Charlie was the only one thinking of everybody, and then they all kind of feel bad because they didn't get him anything special too. Then he gives Sam a special gift, saying that he's doing it because he thinks that she's beautiful. And she says, I love you. And he's like, I know. And she says, I mean it as a friend. And he says that he knows she means it as a friend, but he says he'll take it anyway because that's only the third time that someone's ever said they love him, and the other two were by his mother. For Christmas, Sam then gives Charlie a typewriter and says, quote, write about me sometime. And he says, I will. Then he says, I love you too. And Sam asks if he's ever kissed anyone. He says no, and Sam said that she was first kissed when she was 7 years old, and it was one of her dad's friends, and she never told anybody about it. Sam starts crying, and then she says that she wants to make sure that whoever takes Charlie's first kiss is somebody that actually loves him, and that she wants to forget liking Craig for a minute or two, so then she kisses Charlie. Sam and Patrick are now gone on winter vacation. It's almost Christmas time, and Charlie's wandering around by himself as he just wants stuff to be over because he's going into a bad mental place all by himself. It looks like he's going Christmas shopping with his mother on December 23rd. His birthday is also December 24th, and then it's Christmas. Then he's doing his driving exam, and later that night he reads because he doesn't want to watch TV, and he's reading Catcher in the Rye. It's Teacher Bill's favorite book from when he was Charlie's age. It's now Christmas. Charlie is sad and he's trying to distract himself, and he's ranting about Uncle Bill and his Christmas story and how they're pretty much the same thing. He says his family started being upset yesterday during Christmas Eve shopping because they went shopping again on Christmas Eve. because his mom didn't like the lines and his sister couldn't get a gift for her secret boyfriend and hide it because if she bought anything, her mom would notice. I don't know why you're saving this kind of shopping for last minute when you know you gotta sneak it into your bag, but here we are. The two of them shop. The sister gets mad because she legitimately can't find anything for her boyfriend. They're waiting for dad to come and pick them up with the older brother from the airport, and brother says that he's going to be late because of the weather slowing him down. This causes mom and dad to fight because mom's like, it's Charlie's birthday and he's going to be late. What are we going to do about dinner? We can't wait. It'll be dry if we wait. It's such a non-issue to argue about. Like, it's so miserably boring and stupid. The brother does eventually get there and they eat and everything is fine. And then they go up and light luminary bags and say that it's for Santa Claus and not for St. Lucia. I'm sorry, but I used to do luminary as a child. It is for St. Lucia. You just made it a non-religious thing by making it about Santa. Charlie gets presents. His mom gives him a Catcher in the Rye for Christmas, and then Christmas is gone over and well. Brother and his girlfriend, who is a cheerleader majoring in philosophy, is also really hot. So, older brother is hitting it out of the park in college. Yeah. The brother explains where he met his girlfriend, Kelly, and she's a sorority chick. His sister insults the whole Greek system and says that people die being hazed, and the brother tells the sister that she needs to shut up. Charlie doesn't want to hear them argue, so he asks if brother and Kelly ever talk about books or like the issue. Brother and sister are still fighting, and brother is using his girlfriend to say how much better she is than his sister, even to the point of, quote, "But there's another difference between you and her. You see, Kelly actually believes in women's rights so much that she would never let a guy hit her. I guess I can't say the same about you." Dad stops the car and forces the kids to apologize to each other and tells them not to fight. Then Charlie is asked to finish driving the way to their house, and as they reach the house, the family gets together. He listens to everything going on, and then there's just this bizarre nothing is happening description going on. Quote, "My grandmother is very old. She doesn't remember things a lot, but she baked the most delicious cookies. When I was little, we had my mom's mom, who has always had candy, and my dad's mom, who has always had cookies. My mom told me that when I was little, I called them Candy Grandma and Cookie Grandma. I also called pizza crust pizza bones. I don't know why I'm telling you this. It's like my very first memory, which I guess is the first time I was aware that I was alive. My mom and my Aunt Helen took us to the zoo, and I think that I was 3. I don't remember that part. Anyway, we were watching these 2 cows, a mother cow and its baby calf, and they didn't have a lot of room to walk around. Anyway, the baby calf was standing right underneath its mom, just kind of walking around, and the mother cow took a dump on its baby calf's head, and I thought that was the funniest thing that I had ever seen in the whole world, and I laughed about it for 3 hours. At first, my mom and Aunt Helen kind of laughed too because they were happy that I was laughing. Supposedly, I didn't talk hardly at all when I was a little kid, and whenever I seemed normal, they were happy. But into the 3rd hour, they were trying to make me stop laughing, but it only made me laugh harder. I don't think that it's really 3 hours, but it seemed like it was a long time. I still think about it every now and then. It seems like a rather auspicious beginning. After hugs and handshakes, we went to my grandma's house, and the whole dad's side of the family was there. Great Uncle Phil was with his fake teeth, and Aunt Rebecca, who is Dad's sister. Mom told us that Aunt Rebecca just got divorced again, so that we shouldn't mention anything like that. All I could think about was the cookies, but Grandma didn't make them this year because of her bad hip. We all sat down and watched the television instead. My cousins and my brother talked about football, and my great Uncle Phil drank, and we ate dinner. And I had to sit at the little kids' table because there were more cousins on my dad's side of the family. Little kids talk about the strangest things. They really do. After dinner, I was able to watch It's a Wonderful Life, and I started feeling more and more sad. As I was walking up the stairs to my dad's old room and I was looking at the old photographs, I started thinking that there was a time when there wasn't memories, that someone actually took those photographs, and that people in the photographs had just eaten lunch or something. We had a long story about his grandma being in an abusive relationship, and so her family hunted the guy down and actually beat him to death. And then Charlie is wondering about how the rest of the family will end up and is feeling sad that his male family members might be successful in sports, but his female family members may just end up in abusive relationships because they're doomed to do that. They're then driving back the 2-hour trip home, and everyone is getting along. Normally they would stop to see Aunt Helen's grave on the way, and Charlie launches into talking about how his aunt was molested. She had substance abuse problems, and then one night died in a car accident when going to get a gift for Charlie's birthday, and he kind of blames himself since, quote, she needed to get 2 presents, and She had gone out specifically for him because she only had one. It's now December 30th, and he's talking about Sam and Patrick coming back, and he gets to drive to the party to see them. He also gets to drive to Aunt Helen's grave and by himself, and he's getting very depressed and can't stop crying. He keeps reading The Catcher in the Rye over and over and over again to distract himself. Then he feels bad for crying, like it cheapens the tears that he cries for his aunt, so he wants to stop, or he has to go back to the doctor. It's now New Year's Eve, late at night, and Charlie is upset that he is alone. He says, quote, "I can't sleep. Everyone else is either asleep or having sex." Then he talks about a poem that mentions sometimes being happy for people when you see that they're a couple together, and sometimes you're not so happy for them. So then he understands that poem because he can hear Sam having sex with Craig, and he's upset, and he doesn't want to be. A couple of days later, he's writing a new letter about how the last one was so negative and he mailed it ASAP, or else he doesn't think that he would have actually ended up mailing it. He also wanders into the snow to make a snow angel and passes out. Found by the police, he's got hypothermia, and he's like, "My parents aren't that concerned since this stuff used to happen to me all the time." The doctor says that maybe Charlie should start seeing a psychologist again, and that it's the first time the doctor has said that in front of him ever. At home, they're all watching his brother's ball game together as a family, but they're all keeping an eye on Charlie and trying to comfort him because they know that something is off about him. During the night that he wandered out into the snow, he also ended up cutting off most of his hair, so his sister helped straighten it up so it doesn't look like such a mess. We learned that this all happened because he was on a high LSD trip, which we just find out later. And he determines he's never going to do LSD again because it was a bad trip. The next day, he's still coping with the effects of LSD and he feels bad. He wears the suit that Patrick gave him to school and is mocked for it as a nerd. He skips class to go and find Sam and Patrick and ask for a cigarette, and they ask him what's wrong, if he had a bad trip, and then tell him that things will get better. Sam helps him steady up after the trip and then tells him that he should probably never do acid again. Bill, the teacher, is impressed with Charlie's work yet again and gives him another book. He's smoking 10 packs a day, he says, and he doesn't feel like a faker trying to put his life back together anymore. Charlie is now seeing a psychiatrist again, and he says it's nice. Talks about a TV commercial for a show where a guy was being charged for murdering someone when he didn't do it, and how it's scary to be punished for things you didn't do. He likes the magazines at his therapist's office, and when he's with Craig, Sam, and Patrick, they're all talking about how everyone compares the people to everyone else. Like saying this is like Nirvana, or saying like those are like the Beatles, and how that erases stuff's identity and cheapens things. Sam smiles at Charlie, and Charlie tells his therapist about it. Charlie then gets a new book from his teacher, and Bill compliments him on his work yet again. And they sit around and talk about personal stories. Bill's talking about his education and how after this year in the school system, he might just move to New York to be a playwright. Charlie restlessly moves around his house, unable to determine what he wants to do with himself, and is feeling confused all day. Charlie then goes to the Sadie Hawkins dance with Mary Elizabeth, the hippie girl who works with him on the fanzine Punk Rocky. He also really likes the latest issue of the magazine they did together. It's got a gag coupon for a free blowjob and also a picture of Patrick's butt. Then they're doing the Rocky Horror Picture Show thing, and Craig isn't there like he's supposed to be, so Charlie is asked to play Rocky, and he's worried about getting an erection while touching Sam, but he doesn't get an erection until after the show is over. After it's announced that Charlie is going to go to the dance with Mary Elizabeth, he was hoping that Sam might get a little bit jealous because he still has feelings for her, but she doesn't respond and actually encourages him and says that she is happy about it. Quote, "She even told me how to treat a girl on a date, which was even interesting. She said that with girls like Mary Elizabeth, you shouldn't tell her that she looks pretty, you should tell her that she has a nice outfit, because her outfit is her choice, whereas her face isn't. She also said that with some girls, you need to do things like open car doors or buy flowers, but with Mary Elizabeth, especially since it's the Sadie Hawkins dance, I shouldn't do that. So I asked her what I should do, and she said that I should ask a lot of questions and not mind when Mary Elizabeth doesn't stop talking. I said that it didn't sound very democratic, but Sam said that she does it all the time with boys." Sam is over here feeling like another version of Alaska constantly. These guys writing this YA over here are all writing the same kind of edgy but feminist female characters is what it feels like. She also tells him that sex with Mary might be tricky since she's experienced and Charlie isn't. And Charlie says, what if he doesn't want to do anything sexual with her? And Sam is like, then you just say that you're not ready. And Charlie is like, does that work? And Sam says, sometimes. So again, implying that Sam has been sexually assaulted at least once in the past. That goes along with her father's friend kissing her. These kids are so in over their head. Charlie wants to ask Sam about the other side of sometimes, but doesn't because he doesn't want it to get too personal. He wishes that he could stop being in love with her because all of these feelings, and it sucks because he likes her and he can't because she's seeing somebody and they've kissed, and yeah. The dance, things went well with Mary Elizabeth. Quote, I don't feel very well because everything is messy. I did go to the dance and I did tell Mary Elizabeth how nice her outfit was. I did ask her questions and I let her talk the whole time. I learned a lot about objectification, Native Americans, and the bourgeoisie. But most of all, I learned about Mary Elizabeth. Mary Elizabeth wants to go to Berkeley and gets 2 degrees. One is for political science and the other is for sociology with a minor in concentration in women's studies. Mary Elizabeth hates high school and wants to explore lesbian relationships. I asked her if she thought that girls were pretty and she looked at me like I was stupid and said, that's not the point. Mary Elizabeth's favorite movie is Reds. Her favorite book is an autobiography of a woman who is a character in Reds. I can't remember her name. Mary Elizabeth's favorite color is green. Her favorite season is spring. Her favorite ice cream flavor, she said she refuses to eat low-fat frozen yogurt on principle alone, is Cherry Garcia. Her favorite food is pizza, half mushroom and half green pepper. Mary Elizabeth is a vegetarian and she hates her parents. She's also fluent in Spanish. Mary Elizabeth asks him on another date and he doesn't want to disappoint her even if he can't think of another thing to say to her. He still says yes. They go to the dance and then everyone is sad and Patrick is getting high in the parking lot because Brad couldn't come with them, and then Mary is asking for girl bands to be played by the DJ because obviously Pussy Riot. Everyone is miserable. A sister is fighting with her boyfriend on the dance floor and runs off and is crying in the basement later at home. She tells Charlie not to tell their parents what she's about to say and then informs him that she's pregnant. That's what her and her boyfriend were arguing about at the dance. This part was definitely not in the movie at all. Like none of it to do with the pregnancy. The boyfriend has refused to believe that this is his kid and then breaks up with the sister. When Charlie says that she can't hide the pregnancy forever, the sister is like, well, yeah, that's why I'm gonna go and get an abortion. And Charlie is like, good thing I can drive now. Charlie is then sitting in the clinic waiting room having a tangent about the magazines. Quote, I could almost see the photo shoots of the actresses or models going to eat a little light lunch with her boyfriend afterwards. I could see him asking her about her day and how she wouldn't think too much of it, or maybe if it was her first magazine cover and how she would be very excited because she was starting to become famous. I could see the magazine on the newsstand and a lot of anonymous eyes looking at it and how some people would think that it was very important, and then how a girl like Mary Elizabeth would be very angry about the actress or model showing her cleavage along with all the other actresses and models doing the same thing, while the photographers, like Craig, would just look at the quality of the photograph. And then I thought there would be some men who would buy the magazine and masturbate to it, and I wondered what the actresses or her boyfriends thought about that, if they ever thought about it at all. And then I thought that this was about time for me to stop thinking about it because it wasn't doing my sister any good. And then he's thinking about his sister painting his nails and how she told him where babies came from, and he asked where babies go to when they die. And this makes him upset because he's thinking about what's happening to the baby that is in his sister right now. And so he goes to cry in the car and chain smoke until his sister comes back outside. They eventually get home and get into a little bit of trouble with the parents. You know, they talk their way out of it. Nothing happens with it. Sister tells her boyfriend the pregnancy was a false alarm and thanks Charlie for being there for her. Charlie is happy that they're close and she asks Charlie to stop smoking because she loves him and then says goodnight. Then he goes downstairs and calls this number on a commercial to tell the woman on the other side of the sales network that he hopes she's having a great night, and she's like, frick, and then just hangs up. Yeah. It's just as random as you would think. Charlie asks to borrow the car then, and his sister says that he's got a girlfriend, and Dad comes and says you can use the car, and later that night adds a sex talk with Charlie. Quote, you can't be too careful these days and wear protection, and if she says no, then you have to assume that she means it, because if you force her to do something that she doesn't want to do, and then you're in big trouble, mister. And even if she says no and really means yes, then quite frankly she's playing games and isn't worth the price of dinner. If you need to talk to somebody, then you can come to me, and if you don't want to do that for some reason, talk to your brother. And finally, I'm glad that we had this talk. That's pretty much I think it was pretty streamlined just like that in the book. Then he's on a hipster date with Mary Elizabeth, because that's all that you can really do, right? They go to a foreign artsy movie, and then they're at an underground record store. Meanwhile, Mary Elizabeth is saying how much people suck, because they won't come to art films, but they'll go watch Hollywood garbage that gets pushed out ad nauseum. She also buys Charlie a CD, because she feels bad for not getting him a Christmas present, and then invites him over to her house so that they can listen to the CD. Does that sound like a trap? I think it might sound like a setup. She pours them both the brandy and they drink it, and Mary Elizabeth starts making moves on Charlie. As they lay there in post-coitus form, Charlie's arm is starting to hurt. The garage door opens and he bounces. Mary Elizabeth is now super clingy to him and won't leave him alone, calling him immediately upon getting home from school, etc. And he is so bored with her because she never stops talking, but he also never tells her to shut up or that he's bored. He doesn't know what to do about her, so he goes to his sister to ask her advice. The sister says that Mary Elizabeth has low self-esteem, so she tries to control everything. And Charlie still doesn't know what to do about Mary Elizabeth and is like, I wish that she would just be the way that I thought that she was when we met, and maybe maybe I'm a different person than she thought I was too. Mary Elizabeth then buys Charlie a book of poems and has him show it off to everyone. He gets really annoyed by this and then sells the book back to the bookstore later, only to feel bad and then buy it back again, also to have Mary and also has to get Mary a gift since he said on the phone that he was out buying her a gift and now he has to get her something. He just keeps lying and getting madder at Mary Elizabeth, but not ever saying or doing anything. Then he goes to a Rocky Horror Picture Show night yet again, and afterwards everybody goes off to play Truth or Dare, where Charlie is dared to kiss the prettiest girl in the room and he kisses Sam. Everyone is awkward and Mary Elizabeth is upset, obviously. Patrick steps out with Charlie and drives him home, and making him laugh when he says, "Too bad you're not gay, though I wouldn't date you even if you were, 'cause you're a mess." I mean, you showed him how to masturbate. I feel like you're already halfway there, right? Maybe. You're something. As Charlie is dropped off, he goes, "If I was gay, I would date you." And Patrick is like, "Of course." And he goes inside and reads some E.E. Cummings poetry book and listens to the CD that Mary Elizabeth gave him, and then stares longingly out the window, thinking, I feel nothing. Something is wrong with me and I don't know what it is. Everyone is now upset and not really talking to Charlie anymore or telling him just to hang out on his own for a little while because everybody is a little bit angry with him. Apparently, Craig also got mad at Sam about Charlie for no reason. Like, she's not the one that made that choice, and she's not even talking to him anyway, so, like, what's the beef here, Craig? Skip over to some holidays. His therapist tells him to stop acting passive-aggressive. Meanwhile, Charlie just wishes that things would be easier and no one's talking to him, but it's his responsibility to fix everything. He eventually calls Bob and buys the pot from him, and that makes things better. Bob is a pot dealer that he knows through Patrick. Now we're into chapter 4. He's walking around school all lonely, wondering if the teachers even like their jobs or how smart they were when they were 15 years old. He's just hanging around and people watching at the mall, being lonely because no one wants to talk to him, wondering how and where he'll make more friends. Then he thinks of this girl in school named Susan who was dating his friend Michael, who committed suicide before, and she's started hanging out with the boys who were making sex jokes and trying to laugh. She's kind of a loser who had braces at some point, and so then he walks up to her while she's with those guy friends and asks if she misses her boyfriend who committed suicide, and then just goes, "Oh, sorry that I bothered you if that made you upset," and then walks away after ranting internally about how maybe Susan wouldn't even date Michael anymore if he was still alive because people change. Like, it's so random. Charlie then goes back to get more pot from Bob, and that's when he hears about what went down with Patrick and Brad. It turns out that Brad's dad walked in on them and started beating Brad, and no one's seen him since. He goes to watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show again and thinks about how much he misses his friends. He gets back into the car and imagines himself with Sam and Craig and Patrick, goes home. His sister's then watching a movie with her new boyfriend, and he tries to sit down and watch it too, but they tell him to go away because basically they don't want anything to do with him, and so he goes upstairs and reads again. Meanwhile, Brad's back at school, face down, ignoring Patrick and pretty much everyone else. Patrick is upset and moody. One day in the cafeteria, Patrick tries to talk to Brad, but Brad calls him a faggot. Patrick Patrick challenges them further about it. All of the football bros get aggressive and start beating up on Patrick, and Charlie gets involved. He literally beats them all. Quote, that's when I got involved. I just couldn't watch them hurt Patrick, even if things weren't clear just yet. I think everyone who knew me might have been frightened or confused, except maybe my brother. He taught me what to do in these situations. I don't really want to go into detail except to say that by the end of it, Brad and his two buddies stopped fighting and just stared at me. His other two friends were lying on the ground, one of them clutching his knee, and I bashed it with one of those metal cafeteria chairs. The other one was holding his face, and I kind of swiped at his eyes, but not too bad. I didn't want it to be too bad. I looked at the ground and I saw Patrick. His face was pretty messed up and he was crying hard, and I helped him to his feet, and then I looked at Brad. I don't think we'd ever exchanged 2 words before, but I guess this was the first time to start. All I said was, if you ever do this again, I will tell everyone. And if that doesn't work, I'll blind you. No, I know that the narrative is set in like 2 places that he's had aggressive issues before, but like we haven't seen this anywhere else, and we don't see it anywhere else in the story. Like this never comes up again. It's so random. They all get detention, which is just getting to do whatever they want anyways, and Brad thanks Charlie for stopping the other boys from beating Patrick up. After detention, Sam is there, and he makes up with her and then she tells him to talk to Mary Elizabeth himself to clear up what's going on. She says that Charlie messed up the relationship the 2 of them had, and it's fixed now, but he did a number on their friendship. He goes to the Rocky Horror Show again, and it's very tense. He makes up with Mary Elizabeth, though they are not dating, and she's seeing this new guy in college who will actually debate her since Charlie was just too passive for her. Patrick retired from playing Frankenfurter and sits with Charlie in the audience. I would also like to say that in the movie, they did have these kids doing the Rocky Horror Picture Show in their lingerie, obviously, because it's the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And though everybody in the movie was 20, they were all playing minors, because Charlie is a freshman, so he's 15, and the others are seniors, so they're 18, which, whatever, they're 18. But you've got this insinuation of these teenagers doing the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and it's very uncomfortable for what it's supposed to be. Also, for the record, I never understood the obsession with the Rocky Horror Picture Show. In college, in undergraduate college, I should say, everybody in my class was obsessed with a Rocky Horror Picture Show, and every year they would go and do it at Mad Mirna's, and I just never understood the obsession with the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It was just like Alien Sex Cult with the musical, and people were really into it. The next day, when Charlie is trying to sleep, he gets a call that Patrick is on his way. He gets there a little strung out, hasn't slept, and they speed off. They hang out all day, and Patrick is talking about how things will be different in college. They have to be different than they are now. They go to a golf course where Brad and Patrick used to meet up and drink and gossip about this girl named Lily Miller losing her virginity to her boyfriend, and they made it all perfect, and they forgot the condom, so he used a sandwich bag instead. Then the 2 of them just share stories back and forth about kids that they know or people that they know who did stuff. Quote, there were all of these other stories and other names. Second base Stace, who had breasts in the 4th grade and let some boys feel them up. Vincent, who took acid and tried to flush a sofa down a toilet. Sheila, who allegedly masturbated with a hot dog and had to go to the emergency room. The list went on. There are always, that's one of the things that's with these ALA books. There are like random insertions of graphic sexual detail that are they have nothing to do with anything. It's like in Out of Darkness when the stepdads randomly walked into the bathroom to masturbate into the sink while the child 4-year-old was in the bathtub, and it's just jack off and walk out. And it literally did nothing to the story. I don't understand these random sexual comments, random sexual memories that are in these books. But I've seen them outside of the ALA books. I've seen them in some of the indie books where people are like, I am very proud of this book because sex. I think there's a problem among some of you guys, and you don't see what you're doing. But that's a topic for another day. Patrick then drives Charlie home and kisses him, then says sorry and hugs him and starts crying and talking about Brad, and Charlie listens because that's what friends do. Not because he wants to listen. That's just his obligation as Patrick's friend. That's pretty cold. He's now hanging out more with Patrick, and Patrick takes him to a place where gay people meet each other. Oh, this was definitely not in the movie. Also, it's very strange because I was reading this section. So he goes to this place where gay people hook up. Would this place, one, not be 18 plus? And if it is 18 plus, how is this 15 or 16-year-old getting into this place without an ID? And then why would Patrick take this underaged classman to a place where he's specifically going to get hooked up? Because then he just like leaves Charlie there while he goes to hook up, and then Charlie is just wandering around in this gay hookup spot waiting for Patrick to be done. Like, it's really weird, and there's no point in it. If you read this book, or even just like from this description, have a theory on this, because it was weird. So Charlie is wandering around while Patrick is getting his jollies off, and then Charlie sits down, and this guy walks up, and Charlie is like, as long as I don't make eye contact, then he's gonna know that I'm not interested. But the guy sits down and lights up a cigarette. The guy that just sat down with Charlie is actually a little bit older. He's asking for a light to light a cigarette and join Charlie in smoking, and touches Charlie's hand for a very, very long time. Again, it's at this point again that you gotta wonder, why did Patrick bring him here? Charlie also recognizes this guy as a sports newscaster from television. So as the guy is smoking and sort of trying, testing the waters with Charlie, Charlie asks the guy what it's like to be on television, and the guy walks away. Skip now to Patrick taking Charlie somewhere to go and get more drugs called poppers, but they're out, so they get something else in an aerosol can. They just keep going around these places while Patrick is cruising, and then one night at the cruising spot, they see Brad, but Brad doesn't see them. Apparently most nights Patrick tries to kiss Charlie, but not tonight, and just thanks him for being a good friend and then drives off. So like, was the whole point of bringing Charlie to those gay cruise spots to like get Charlie to become maybe bi-curious or to get involved so that he might kiss Charlie and then might, do a little more with Charlie? Otherwise, what were the reasons? His favorite teacher gives him movies to watch and says that he might not be moving to New York after all. He might just stick around and take over the drama department instead. Graduation is coming up. He's not doing so hot in math because he keeps asking why things work the way that they do. And the teacher is like, stop asking, just do the formula. And he's getting straight A's now anyway. Charlie is then enjoying Ayn Rand in the background and is enjoying The Fountainhead. He tries writing his own story, but it's not very good. And then he thinks about what it will be like when he leaves this place eventually. He hopes that he gets to be valedictorian when it's his time to graduate. Everyone is getting ready to go off to their college experiences early or prepping for it, and he talks about enjoying the Fountainhead more and how it had the idea of living for yourself first and bringing people into your life later. He has a dream about Patrick and Sam having their last day of high school and leaving forever and then leaving into the sunset. Then he decides that he needs to take his sister and his sister's boyfriend to go to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show before he leaves. He doesn't tell them about the hazing that happens at the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is if it's your first time, then you're required to do the time warp, and if you fail at the time warp, then you have to pretend that you're having sex on stage with a stuffed Gumby for not knowing the time warp. So he doesn't tell them that. I'd be like, brother, I'm leaving and I'm not ever going anywhere with you ever again. Like, what the frick? At a party later, he just people watches and manages the music to DJ for what he feels is appropriate music, and the people seem to like that he's doing a really great job. Patrick is already feeling lonely because the juniors are acting like seniors since they've moved up now, and everyone that he knew and liked is gone, except for Patrick, who he doesn't think is going to want to see him. The seniors are sleeping in after prom, and then Charlie turns in his essay and asks his teacher if he wants one on the Fountainhead. The teacher is like, nah, I couldn't ask you to do that much work since you're already working on your finals. I can't ask you for extra work, but hey, would you like to come to my house and hang out? Like, what the frick is this? That is also insanely inappropriate for a teacher to randomly ask a student and only that student to come and hang out at your house. That is questionable. Charlie agrees to go and hang out at this teacher's house. Though, despite this happening, and despite how sketchy it looks, it skips through the entire thing. Basically, nothing happens there, and it's like, sorry I didn't write a letter last night, coming back from Bill's house. Sam broke up with her boyfriend after prom, and it goes into a story of that. Turns out that Craig had been cheating on Sam all of this time, but Craig kept making excuses to his friend on why he wasn't breaking up with Sam. Quote, I just wanted her to remember it the good way. She was going off to college anyway, and she'd find another man. I don't know, bro. I didn't have to tell her I was cheating. I didn't want to ruin her high school experience, bro. During prom, Peter, one of Craig's friends, overheard Sam saying that she was trying to figure out how to keep the long-distance relationship with Craig going because she cared about him, and Peter threatened to tell her if Craig didn't. Then he details going to Bill's house and telling Bill and his girlfriend about him having feelings for Sam, and Bill says that it's been a pleasure teaching him. Quote, "Charlie, you're one of the most gifted people that I have ever known, and I don't mean it in terms of my other students. I mean it in terms of people that I have ever met. That's why I gave you the extra work. I was wondering if you were aware of that. So you are just so brainy, so smart, so much like Ropa's little sister that you just deserve the extra work because, bro, you are ages away from everybody else's work." Is that true? I don't know. This guy just feels sketchy, and I don't understand anything of what he was doing. At some points, he was barely getting A's in that class. We also got, quote, "Charlie, please don't take this the wrong way, and I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable. I want you to know that you're very, very special. And the only reason that I tell you that is that I don't know if anyone else ever has. So when the school year ends and I'm not your teacher anymore, I want you to know that if you ever need anything and want to know more about books or want to show me anything that you write or anything, you can always come to me as a friend, and I do consider you a friend, Charlie." I don't know. Comments, let me know. Do you think that this feels inappropriate for a teacher and his 15-year-old student? Because I didn't go to school. I don't know what it's like, but something feels off about this whole situation to me. Charlie is like, "You're the best teacher that I have ever had," and then leaves and thinks about how he is called special and how that's such a rare occurrence, and then he goes to purchase graduation gifts for everyone. His big brother is now back for the summer from college and is asking him a bunch of questions. He mentions the TV caster that he met at the park and has to come up with a reason for how he talked to that guy, since he can't mention that he was at a gay scouting spot. Then it's it doesn't matter because that just kind of dies, and then it moves on to something else with no problems, no questions of what was going on with that. Then it's graduation time, and they all go off to school where there's a minor conflict with a racist grandpa, and he gets shut down quickly. Then there's a graduation party that he can't leave until the relatives are gone. Sam calls to tell him where she is so that he can come to them when he's done, and eventually he does go to her, and they go to a dance club, and he dances with Sam that night, and then he gives everyone their gifts at the hotel, which includes giving Sam and Patrick his favorite books because they are his favorite people. Sam takes him into the other room to say that she's scared about going off to college, so they should stay in touch, and if either of them gets scared, they can call each other, and they should write letters. No problem. School is over, and he feels good about it all. He just misses Sam and Patrick and no one else at that school wants to hang out with him during summer vacation. And it's just like after school starts again, people are just mean, and he's trying to make friends, but nobody wants to talk to him at all. And he's like, oh, well, I'm glad that school is over so I can hang out with my friends again. Sam is panicking as she prepares to leave for college. Charlie is doing his best to help her stay focused and calm. Patrick, Sam, and Charlie are then hanging out when Patrick leaves, and Sam asks Charlie to come out with her for the night as she finishes packing, and Charlie watches her. As she's packing, she asks why Charlie didn't ask her out during the Craig stuff, and he says, quote, "I thought that your being sad was much more important to me than Craig not being your boyfriend anymore. And if it meant that I would never get to think of you that way, as long as you're happy, it was okay. That's when I realized that I really loved you." And she says, "Charlie, don't you get it? I can't feel that. It's sweet and everything, but it's like you're not even there sometimes. It's great that you can listen and be a shoulder to someone, but what about when someone doesn't need a shoulder? What if they need the arms or something like that? You can't just sit there and put everybody's lives ahead of yours and then think that that counts as love. You just can't. You have to do things." Again, this feels like another I'm 14 and I'm deep moment. Because also there is like no building into what it means to be a wallflower. Like it's not there. He says like, and he has obviously done things for people, like taking his sister to get an abortion and being there for his sister when she is having problems. Like, I just, this whole revelation doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel like it connects to anything other than he's passive in his own life entirely. But he made deliberate decisions. When she says you have to do things for yourself, and he's like, What? And then she's like, I don't know, like take their hands when their slow song comes on for a change, or be the one who asks someone for a date, or tell people what you need or what you want, like on the dance floor. Did you want to kiss me? And she's telling him that he's never really honest with people because he's always doing and being what he thinks people want instead of being a participant in anything. He wants a friend to Patrick. He wasn't a friend to Patrick when he was doing the things that he thought Patrick wanted, or Elizabeth when he did what she wanted. What is this saying that he's supposed to do? You're never actually friends with somebody if you're kind of doing what they want you to do sometimes? Or like, I need a little more context. Like, obviously you have to also be yourself. You can't just appease people. Otherwise you're not being yourself. Quote, Charlie, I told you not to think of me that way 9 months ago because of what I'm saying now. Not because of Craig, not because I didn't think that you were great. It's just that I don't want to be somebody's crush. If somebody likes me, I want them to like the real me, not what they think I am. And I don't want them to carry it around inside. I want them to show me so that I can feel it too. I want them to be able to do whatever they want around me. And if they do something that I don't like, I'll tell them. You know, I blame Craig for not letting me do things. You know how stupid I feel about that now? Maybe he didn't really encourage me to do things, but he didn't really prevent me from doing them either. But after a while, I didn't do things because I didn't want him to think differently about me. But the thing is, I wasn't being honest. So why would I care whether or not he loved me when he didn't really even know me? So tomorrow, I'm leaving, and I'm not going to let that happen again with everyone else. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to be who I really am, and I'm going to figure out what that is. But now, right now, I'm with you, and I want to know where you are, what you need, what you want to do. So I kissed her, and she kissed me back, and we laid down on the floor and kept kissing, and it was soft, and we made quiet noises and kept silent and still, and we went over to the bed and laid down there in things that weren't put in suitcases. And we touched each other from the waist up over our clothes, and then under our clothes, and then without clothes, and it was so beautiful. She was so beautiful. She took my hand and slid it under her pants, and I touched her, and just couldn't believe it. It was like everything made sense until she moved her hand under my pants, and she touched me. And that's when Charlie stops her and tells her that he is not ready, but he's not sure what is the issue, really. He feels so bad for stopping her, even though he's like, no, I don't feel bad. So then they're leaving, and she wants to take him home, and he says that he doesn't want to go home even though it's late and he's looking ill. Sam lays Charlie down, and he's thinking about his Aunt Helen, who had been doing the things to him that Sam had just been doing to him. It's literally just a passing thought, and it's over, and I don't know why it's here. It's just a bloop, and they move on. There's no reflection. We're at the end of the book. He literally had sex with Mary Elizabeth and had no problems with it, and then this is inserted in. Like, it's literally, it doesn't need to be here. It's such a mess. It's so, it's disrespectful too. Next, Sam is finally leaving, and then there is the quote, I was last. Sam walked up and held me for a long time. Finally, she whispered in my ear. She said a lot of wonderful things about how it was okay that I wasn't ready last night, and how she would miss me, and how she wanted me to take care of myself while she was gone. You're my best friend, was all I could say in return, and she smiled and kissed my cheek, and it was like for a moment the bad part of last night disappeared. But it still felt like a goodbye rather than a see ya. The thing was, I didn't cry. I didn't know what I felt. He's not sure how to deal with all of the emotions he's feeling at the moment and doesn't know what to do since he's not in control. He thanks the reader/receiver of the letters for listening to him talk, quote, but first I wanted to say thank you for being one of those people who listens and understands and doesn't try to sleep with people even though you could have. I really mean it. And I'm sorry that I've put you through this when you don't even know who I am and we've never met in person and I can't tell you who I am and I've promised to keep all of those little secrets. I just don't want you to think that I picked your name out of a phone book. It would kill me if you thought that. So please, believe me when I tell you that I felt terrible after Michael died, and I saw this girl in class who didn't notice me, and then she talked all about her friends of hers, and even though I didn't know you, I felt like I did because you sounded like such a good person. The kind of person who wouldn't mind receiving letters from a kid. The kind of person who would understand how they were better than a diary because there's this communion and a diary can be found. I just don't want you to worry about me or think that you've met me or waste your time anymore, and I'm so sorry that I wasted your time because you really do mean a lot to me, and I hope that you have a very nice life because I really think that you deserve it. I really do. I hope you do too. Okay then, goodbye. And that's the end of the basic story. We've then got an epilogue where he says he's in the hospital because he went unresponsive and was just kind of sitting in his living room staring at the TV naked, and that his doctor helped him realize that his aunt had abused him while he was watching TV when he was a kid. Like, it literally comes out of nowhere and is just inserted into this epilogue. You could have taken the moment out when he was with Sam, or even still just had him be like, I'm not ready because you mean more to me than just having sex right now, and that moment would have been more impactful, and not made it about, oh, he was molested and that's the only reason that he could tell her no, and then taken this whole bit out of the ending here, and the book wouldn't have changed because it didn't matter. Also, now all of his friends and his family are there for him, including his friends from school, just the friends, that didn't want to talk to him after the semester ended. And now he's not mad anymore because anger wasn't going anywhere, and he was just shouting at the sky in the back of a car after he visits with Sam and Patrick again because they've now returned. Yeah, the epilogue skips back to Patrick and Sam being there, so she leaves and then it's like epilogue. I had a breakdown, remembered that I was molested, and now they're back and everybody loves me. Quote, as we went into the tunnel, I didn't hold up my arms like I was flying. I let the wind rush over my face and I started crying and smiling at the same time because I couldn't help feeling just how much I loved my Aunt Helen for buying me 2 presents, and how much I wanted the present that I bought my mom for my birthday to be really special. And how much I wanted my sister and brother and Sam and Patrick and everyone else to be happy, but mostly I was crying because I was suddenly aware of the fact that it was me standing up in the tunnel with the wind in my face, not caring if I saw downtown, not even thinking about it, because I was standing in the tunnel and I was really there, and that was enough to make me feel infinite. Tomorrow I start my sophomore year of high school, and believe it or not, I'm not really that afraid of going. I'm not sure if I will have the time to write any more letters because I might be too busy trying to participate. So if this does end up being my last letter, please believe that things are good with me, and even when they're not, they will be soon enough, and I will believe the same about you. So I can at least give this props the same way that I gave Looking for Alaska props, that at least it ends on a positive note, because despite the whole rest of it being like, everything is sad, my family is sad, my parents are sad, I was molested, everything is sad, he's still like, hopefully tomorrow will be better because I believe in hope for the future now. So at least it has that, but it's still a stupid book with so much stupid random garbage in it. I'm sorry if you like this book. It felt like a waste of time. So much of the ALA books are so... like, how did this get a movie? And the movie deviates so much, but like, also the movie and the book don't have any sort of structure, like, at all. In fact, the movie is worse than the book because it's just as cutty and jumpy as the book, but it's missing so much context of anything that's happening. Anyway, I don't get anything out of the narrative flow of this book where it's just kind of random snapshots or memories. It just feels like the author was high while he was writing this. The story is randomly anemic, like details for things that don't matter are there with fuller detail, and the things that do matter lack any detail. Now I understand. Take this as you will. I understand that I'm not the audience for this slice of life, nothing is happening, depression quest story. But I feel like I'm on crazy pills when I'm looking at the other reviews from this. Also, I turned on the movie for this, and immediately I felt like The Perks of Being a Wallflower was the pre-version of Dear Evan Hansen. At least an inspiration for it of some kind. The movie also made Charlie way more bullied than he actually was in the book. He kind of was just ignored in the book. It also immediately introduced him as being depressed, where it didn't do that in the book. There is even less impact to anything in the movie because it spends too much time on inane stuff. Sam is way more involved in the movie than in the book, and there is no lead into anything. She just has all of these random, oh, and now I have a lot of feelings for you. Oh, here's the thing. But you don't get the build up that is actually in the book, which is hard to capture when you're doing a movie, I get it, but then it takes the impact away from the interactions. Again, I have to mention the sexual assault, the commonality, the casualty of which the sexual assault is laced through all of the characters, or the assault with the sister. And I'm not saying that any of it has to be resolved, but it's literally all just, this is just casual. This is just part of being in a relationship, as you get assaulted, all of them. All of them. Okay, so now that I've gone through the whole synopsis, I've realized something, and I want your guys' opinion on it, because I don't know if anybody else has discussed this. You'll have to let me know if you've read the book, like, seriously, because I feel like I'm going crazy looking for people talking about this. But, okay, Patrick was a creeper and a manipulator, and I don't know what we can believe. So we already know that there is something off with Charlie, like his emotional and social awareness seems to be off. Even people that have read the book say that. Some of them say that he's autistic, which is possible. He was failing in his literature class until suddenly he wasn't, and the teacher is like, you're super, super special, Charlie. I don't know if anybody's ever told you that, but you are super special. You've got him not knowing a rape was happening when it was happening right in front of him. And then you've got many other weird social interactions with Charlie. But then I want to recount everything that was with Patrick. So Patrick taught this freshman how to masturbate at 15, which is already weird. Like, you meet somebody new and you're teaching them how to masturbate. Can the guys in the chat tell me if this is normal for upperclassmen in high school to randomly meet an underclassman and teach them how to masturbate? Then we're told, because we have to remember everything is told through Charlie's perspective and whatever Patrick would tell Charlie, as if Patrick would ever say anything to Charlie that would implicate him. So we've got to remember that. So we learn about Brad through Patrick telling Charlie that they were dating, but every time that they were together, it was secretly in a room. Brad was either drunk or high, and then the first time that they had sex, Brad was the bottom, and he was sobbing afterwards. Now, maybe he was sobbing because it was rough. That was the first intention. That was the first thing that I took from it, because, they didn't have lubricants, so it was difficult. But as I go forward, as I was recounting this whole thing, I'm starting to think that that is not the actual picture that is being painted, especially with the casualness that the sexual abuse is painted through this entire work. Okay, so we've got Patrick is on top of Brad. He is sobbing afterwards. He pulls Brad's pants up and leaves the room and says, hey, I'm going to go tell people. And then when they get back to Brad later, he's passed out. They have to carry him to the car. Who knows if he actually passed out, if he couldn't move because he was hurt so bad. You've got that. Then the next time that we actually see Brad eventually, and we hear every time that they're together, he is drunk or high. And then they say that it's for plausible deniability. Maybe it is. Maybe he just can't handle it, and he's in a bad situation with Patrick where he has to be sexually abused by Patrick. So then the next time that we really see this with Brad, it's described as Brad is sitting at the table in the lunchroom. Patrick has told Charlie that Brad's dad found them in a room and then beat the crap out of Brad. Now, that could be true. It could be that they found them. It could be that the dad found them and then it exposed Brad's situation to his dad. It could be any number of things, because then you've got Brad sitting at the table, slumped over, not looking at anybody. And already we know that Patrick and Brad do not talk to each other at school because the whole thing is supposed to be a secret, right? However, Brad is over there with his friends when Patrick approaches to try to talk to him, and that's when Brad calls him a faggot. So we have to look at that situation. Why is Patrick suddenly talking to Brad at school when he knows that they're not supposed to do that? That looks like a power move to me. Then they get into the fight over there, and then Charlie beats up Brad somehow. I don't know if he really did that. It seemed somewhat fantasy. Again, we're taking everything through Charlie's perspective. But Brad says thank you when they're leaving the detention, and that could just be thanking Charlie for stepping in to stop Patrick from saying anything that would implicate him to his buddies. So there is that possibility. Following that breakup with Brad, we've got Patrick, who immediately tries to kiss Charlie when they're hanging out. That doesn't go anywhere. Patrick says, if you were gay, I would date you. And Charlie is like, if you were gay, I would date you. And then it starts, we've also got Patrick going, except you're a mess, so I wouldn't date you. But I think that was a joke. Because then you've got Patrick taking Charlie to these gay cruising spots and then leaving him there while he goes and hooks up. But so then these older men are then hitting on Charlie. And is that supposed to be like enticing Charlie or get him to start crossing that line maybe? And every single time they go out, it also says that Patrick tries to kiss Charlie. So why is that happening? It also says that Patrick is constantly taking Charlie to go and get drugs. Patrick also introduced Charlie to LSD and brought him to a party of older and upperclassmen where he was given a pot brownie. So we've got a lot of these situations where he is being drugged and he's around this drug culture of older classmen. And then Patrick is constantly making these moves on Charlie, which leads me to believe that Patrick was actually abusing Brad and then was trying to make moves on Charlie. And I have seen nobody make any comments about Patrick's creepy behavior. But for me, in putting all these things together, it does not look good. But let me know what your thoughts are. I just had to add that in there because, again, I haven't seen anybody else talking about it, and it is completely removed from the movie. So I don't know if the author intended for Patrick to come off this way, because the author doesn't spell out almost anything in the story. You kind of have to pick up on whatever it is you want to pick up on. So let me know what your thoughts are. Do those elements spell a certain story out for you, or am I reading too much into it? Did you pick up on those things yourself when you were reading? Let me know in the comments down below. And then the author also called this book both semi-autobiographical while being different from his life. This is like not the first book on the ALA's list that claims to be autobiographical or semi-autobiographical, but also very different from somebody's life. Hello, lawn boy. Can people stop using semi-autobiographical as a way to say I'm selling my angst, but also this isn't really my angst or my life, but also feel bad for me? Semi-autobiographical should mean that it has something to do with your life. But if you say, hey, it's autobiographical, but also it's not, semi-autobiographical should mean slight things changed, not I'm writing fanfic of what it would be like to be a landscaper in my island in Washington State and what their thoughts are from me looking out the window of my McMansion. You tell? I'm glad that we are at the last ALA book. Oh my gosh. So that was The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Here we are. One more book to go, and it is about fairies and gaslighting. I hope you're ready, because I am ready to move on from the ALA for a little while. I have some books to be reading. I have a compilation of about 6 books to do as a quick read for like different sorts of things. I've got Slay. You can all soon know the pain that is Slay, and if you already know, you freaking know, because... And, all of the other books that I have that I am waiting to read right now. Waiting means just getting to them, because I have a stack of them, including, what was it? I want to say Llamas with Guns was recently sent to me. And obviously, you know, Avalon, Timefall, and some of the other books that are just there. So, with that said, what are your thoughts? Have you read The Perks of Being a Wallflower? Will you read The Perks of Being a Wallflower? Have you seen the movie? What are your thoughts between the differences in the movie and the book? Especially Patrick. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your patience in going through the ALA books. Hopefully next year's book list is better than this one. At least I don't think we'll be reading as many books for the ALA next year, because I'm sure there will be some repeats from this year. With that said, have a great weekend and don't die.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out?
The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross.
Is he in trouble?
We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him.
Cross isn't a killer. For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die. Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Why? Did you do that? To the left, plain black letters read along the wall. You walked in the corridor. Once that ends, you chose the dark is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me. Where the hell am I? You're dead, Josephine. Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?